Everyone, and welcome back to my live stream. As a reminder, we kind of alternate between going in depth on a subject of interest in the SEO and content marketing world, as well as every other session doing UX content audits, which I'm really excited about because it's something that I used to do, I guess, more in a broader sense of doing website audits, but focusing on content and the content experience moving forward. So I'm just going to make sure that the live is working correctly really quickly here across the different channels that I'm streaming to, and it looks like it is. So we will go ahead and get started. I do have, I'm using Restream, and there is a chat capability. So if you have questions, throw them up. I'll be looking out for them just in case. But today I wanted to talk to you about something that I think is, I guess, a missed opportunity for a lot of brands that have their eyes on high search volume keywords, keywords that have a lot of monthly searches and, that look good, kind of from like a vanity metrics perspective. And I want to champion the underdog here, which are the no or the low search volume keywords, and explain in what situations they might be a better use of your time. So we're going to jump into that in just a second here. I want to remind you that you can submit your content for a content audit. The next one's going to be, I think, April 3rd. So I did launch that event. Depending on what channel you're tuning into, you can set a reminder for yourself by finding that. If you look on my profile, it'll be one of the most recent posts. And you just use this form, and the only required field is your name and the URL of where the content lives. And it's not designed to be like a teardown. It's done with respect and done in a way that's trying to give you something actionable to think of. Contributing to my background as being a web designer in the past, now being more on the content and SEO side. So think of it as some free expert help designed to really help us all. That's why I'm doing it live. So with all that being said, I'm going to switch the screen to kind of the basis for our discussion today. This is a post that we recently published on the Blogsmiths blog about no or low search volume keywords. Again, something that is like near and dear to our hearts and our philosophy. And this one was written by one of our fabulous writers, Sarah. She's been with us for a couple of years now. So if you work with the Blacksmith, you may be getting some of her work, but here's kind of a nice intro into her style and, specifically focused on this very interesting topic. And so I wanted to call out a couple things, and then obviously you can go and check out the article for yourself if you want a deeper dive after. And I promise to keep this, within sort of like 5 to 10 minutes or so. That's my goal here. But I would say essentially our philosophy at the Blagsmith when it comes to doing keyword research and finding the ideal targets for our clients is really that it's better to have a small amount of highly qualified visitors than a large amount of totally unqualified visitors. So this is sort of like the fallacy of going after those keywords that have very high search volume, but perhaps low intent. So when it comes to low or no search volume keywords, what we're really looking at here are opportunities with high intent and high levels of qualification. And so one stat that I thought was interesting, and granted, it's a little bit dated. I couldn't find a more updated stat than this, but some 2021 Ahrefs data found that 94.74% of all keywords have 10 or fewer monthly searches. And, I think there's a lot of competition in SEO, in doing content, in targeting keywords specifically. And so I think this is a really great again, sort of like underdog opportunity here. And let's talk a little bit about why it's worth doing that. And I guess to kind of talk a little bit about the issue or the situation as it stands. First of all, keyword data in general, you're never going to get exactly the same metrics depending on what tool you use. And so we at the Blacksmith, we really love SEMrush, we really love Ahrefs. We've used both in our workflow. Another tool that I really love and I suggest to more of like the smaller teams or small business owners, it's just a little bit more affordable if SEO isn't like something that you do for clients, or I guess like on a wide scale for yourself. The difference between something like these all-in-one major industry players like SEMrush or Ahrefs, and a tool like SE ranking, is really, to me, the quality of the keyword data. So SE ranking is using different data than the other two that I've mentioned, and it's closer to like Google's data for PPC campaigns and things like that. So that's where the limitation is for us. And if you look at this article, we kind of talk about how ads data factors into this like low search volume keyword research process. And so that is something that influences what you see and what comes up and how to rank and things like that. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is basically like consider the tool you're using, and don't necessarily go off of only that tool, because it might be worth checking it elsewhere. And, I think the other thing that's really important here is like the search volume may not exist because it's a new concept. So that's another thing that we talk about here. For example, like last summer we had Barbenheimer, when Barbie and Oppenheimer basically were released at the same time, and it was a lot of fun. Just, hard to figure out where to spend your time if you're into both. But the term itself, Barbenheimer, clearly didn't have any search volume until it was created, and then it spiked, and, it's since gone down a bit, and then now with the Oscars, it's probably coming into vogue again. But just the idea that sometimes you have to be a little bit of a seer, I guess. And like keyword research tools will only get you so far if a concept is developing or doesn't exist yet. And I think one of the perfect examples of that for us is another blog that I've gone through on one of these past lives, which is our blog on AI detector tools and if they're reliable, like how they work and things like that. We came up with that topic not based on doing keyword research to justify it, but because it was something that a lot of people in our industry were wondering about. Personally within the company, we wanted to test out these different tools to see if they were useful. If they were useful, especially when working with new writers that we were doing paid test projects with. We wanted to make sure that they weren't submitting AI copy, or, short of being able to definitively say that, get as close as possible. It's also like a phrasing thing too. And I think different people search in different ways. I mean, that's part of doing keyword research for sure. But if there's sort of like a developing way to talk about things that's different than what the keyword research shows, I think that's another thing that is worth considering and possibly worth targeting and testing. So here's where we get into kind of like the ads data. There's certain keywords, or maybe even it's like the phrasing of those keywords, that make it so that Google isn't triggering any related ads. They might not think that there is like a related conversion factor with those terms, and so it's just not worth it for them to surface ads and like waste ad spend and like make their ads clients angry. So it's kind of like talking about how that affects the data available, but it might not be actually representative of organic search. So again, kind of depends on the tool you're using and the frame that you're using to do your research. Same thing with this like policy restrictions. Certain like geographical locations restrict things. Certain types of content are restricted when it comes to ads and being able to create ads for them, but that doesn't mean that there isn't an organic search possibility for those same terms. The keyword research tools you're using might be impacted by that detail. So, I think like one of our strategies really since the beginning has always been go for the long tail. I was looking on my Facebook the other day in my memories, and I saw a picture from an event. It was like probably my first speaking event ever. It was from 2016. It was, shortly after I taught myself the basics of SEO. And one of the slides I remember was about long tail SEO and like, like if you were a food blogger, you wouldn't just say bread recipe. It would be so much better to do like gluten-free, like cinnamon rolls or, something like that, where you're getting really specific. And then the person who clicks through to your website after having searched that term is like a much better fit for your content than generally trying to target bread or bread recipe, or like another one is like, you know, shoes, and it's like, okay, but is it for, you know, like a man or a woman's style, or is it like, you know, sporty or dressy? Or, so the more long tail you get, and I'm sure the people who are watching this already know that, but that's a way to get to use the best, I think, of what these like low or no search volume keywords have to offer. It's just a reminder, really. Okay, so what else did I want to say about this? I mean, that's kind of the main stuff, the main meat and potatoes here. Um, and I invite you, you know, certainly to read through this article and get some ideas for your content strategy. But I think, like, at the end of the day, the main thing that I wanted to share is that low and no volume keywords are a really great opportunity, I think, from a sales perspective and from a conversion perspective. And it might not seem like that on the surface level. I mean, it's certainly more appealing, you know, to try to target large search volume, and, you know, get all that traffic. But ultimately, it's kind of like, does it even really matter if that traffic never converts, if it's inflating your numbers, if it's like giving you false hope and setting the wrong expectations too with like your higher ups and the people who are judging you on these metrics and holding you to them. So I think that's what I'm going to leave you with today. Check out the article if you want to dive in a little bit deeper. Definitely talk to us at the Blogsmith if you want to talk a little bit more about keyword strategy for your brand. And once again, I will invite you to use this URL, this Blogsmith minus the vowels.tips/content audit to submit your content for a forthcoming content UX, basically experience audit, you know, in the same sort of vein of what we're doing today, but focused on that instead. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.